Hello, my name is Jitters, and this is the first video of a new mini-series I'm starting called Why Nobody Plays, where I talk about the least picked agents in Valorant, why they might have such low pick rates, and suggest changes that could potentially help increase their pick rates. This series is inspired by another YouTuber named Vars who has a similar series for the champions in League of Legends. If you play League and enjoy this video, I highly recommend checking out his channel. I'll leave an annotation on screen and a link in the description to his channel in case you want to check him out. So for this episode of Why Nobody Plays, I'm going to be talking about Viper. Viper has been an underplayed agent since release, and even after having received buff after buff for the last year, she's still one of the least played agents in the game with some niche play on maps like Icebox. Because of this, I felt as though she was the perfect agent to start off this series with. Before talking about why Viper isn't played that often, I want to start by talking about Viper's strengths. Her first strength is that Viper's in the controller class, which is arguably the most important class in the game. A lot of the time, not having a controller on the team makes the game feel almost unplayable and for the most part an auto loss. Even in games where there are 5 duelist mains, the player base understands the importance of having a controller on the team, and usually someone in those lobbies will bite the bullet and pick a smoker for the team because they want to win. So Viper being in the controller class is a strength because every team comp needs one, and with a pool of only 4 total agents as of May 2021, it should give her a better chance of getting picked. On top of being a part of such an important class of agents, Viper herself isn't really a weak agent, at least not anymore. When Viper was first released, her kit was very weak compared to other agents, and she was arguably the weakest agent in the game for a long time. But over the last year, Viper has received buff after buff, and especially after her last big buff, making it so enemies instantly take 50 damage when touching her wall, she definitely isn't weak anymore. The new Viper makes it pretty hard to push through onto a site because even touching her smoke or wall for a second will leave you vulnerable. She really is in a good place right now in terms of power. You could even argue that she's a little overtuned at the moment. Well, if Viper has these strengths, then why isn't she played more? Remember how I said that one of Viper's strengths is that she's a controller? Well, that strength happens to be a bit of a disadvantage in some ways for her as well. Since controllers are so important, especially when attacking sites, you need one that can do their job well. And agents like Omen, Brimstone, and even Astra are just better at smoking off choke points and helping your team push onto a site. Because of this, she's kind of outclassed in her own role and acts less like a real controller and more like a sentinel. So when you do pick her, it's usually alongside another controller. And this makes it hard to build a team comp around her, especially in a solo queue environment. Another big reason that Viper has such a low pick rate is that she's very difficult to play. She requires a lot of time in the practice range to learn lineups for both her orb and mollies. On top of that, she has a skill set unique to her since her abilities don't really have cooldowns but instead have a resource meter. This means that players trying to pick up Viper have to learn an entirely new skill set just to be able to manage this resource effectively, which just makes learning how to play her even more of a time commitment. Alternatively, if you look at a character like Brim, if you know where you should smoke, all you need to do is press E, left click a couple of times, and then press right click and all of your smokes are dropped exactly where you want them. Finally, Viper's abilities require a lot of commitment on your end to use. As soon as you place down your wall, you're unable to move it somewhere else. And this forces you to either commit to the site where you place down your wall or push a site without any cover. And even though you can pick up her orb, you need to be within really close range of it to be able to do that. So if you throw the orb near the back of a site, you won't really be able to pick it up and rotate to another site. This also makes it hard for a team with a Viper as the only controller to default and play slow, because for example on Haven, Omen can smoke mid while his team tries to play for a pick or gain ground on a site, and then when they're ready to commit to that site, he'll have 2 smokes ready to execute on that site. Where if Viper throws her orb mid and tries to default, she won't have access to it for the rest of the round in most cases, since she likely won't be able to walk up to it and pick it up before her team wants to commit onto a site. And all the other controllers just don't have this limitation. Well, okay, we have some good points as to why Viper has such a low pick rate, but how can she be changed to help her get picked more? In my opinion, the last changes made Viper stronger, but they didn't really help her get better at her role. So I think we need changes that are going to both make her a better controller, as well as easier to pick up for your average player without making her too easy. I came up with 3 ideas for changes that could help fix these issues, all revolving around her orb. 1. When you equip the orb, there needs to be an indicator on the UI that shows the trajectory of the orb, similar to something like Raze's grenade, but a little more accurate so you can easily see where it will land. 2. There should also be an indicator on the map to show where the orb will land when you throw it. And 3. Viper should be able to recall her orb from anywhere on the map, similar to Killjoy and her turret and bot, with a slight cooldown when she does recall her orb. The first 2 changes would make it so much easier to smoke sites with Viper and be an effective controller. Combined with their wall, Viper would be able to smoke any site at the same level as characters like Brim and Omen, with the same consistency that they can do it as well. These changes also make it easier for new players trying to pick her up, since they don't have to spend so much time learning lineups just so that they could start playing her. Of course, this takes away from the skill cap of the character a little bit, but Viper would still have a high ceiling with these changes. You would still need to learn Molly lineups, how to manage her poison resource, and how to make outplays in her ultimate if you want want to play her at the highest levels. The third change would allow Viper the opportunity and give her flexibility to play slow during a round and actually be able to default effectively, since she would be able to place her orb somewhere and then recall it from anywhere on the map when her team is ready to commit to a site, so she'll have it ready to smoke for that site when she needs it. Let me know what you think about my points in this video and whether you agree or disagree with what I've said. Also, what do you think about my ideas for improving Viper, and if you have any other ideas for potential changes, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear your suggestions as well. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more Valorant related content.